And I think I'll just start with an introduction, then sort of ask you to introduce yourself and what you're involved in. I think we'll go for that.
Okay, perfect.
Couple of moments and check on my phone. I can check down here for any questions. Okay, and I think we're live. So amazing. Thank you for everyone for tuning back in. You're with us and we're looking at record stores making waves in the digital age, and you're with Louis, Cinthie, Joshua and myself. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we're going to be raising money for charities that are supporting our industry. We're going to be raising money for BLMUK, Mind, Women in Music and Help Musicians. So if you can donate and help, please look at the description below the video and head to the link there. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me, everyone. I guess if you just want to give me a little, introduce yourself to viewers and let me know what you're involved in, that'd be cool. Cinthie, do you want to go first?
Yes, I can go first. Yeah, I'm Cinthie and I'm based in Berlin. I run a record store because we're going to talk about this. I'm also a DJ, producer, label owner, a mother. I have many things to do. But I think that's pretty much it, yeah.
Amazing. Yes, yourself, Louis?
Hi, I'm Louis, commercial manager for Discogs. I'm responsible for all field marketing, so anything physical out in the world, worldwide, and also marketplace relationships with sellers as well.
Amazing. And Josh, go ahead.
I'm a DJ based in Birmingham, and I've just co-created Ikigai, which is a crowdfunding consultancy that works with creative businesses on their crowdfunding campaigns.
Amazing. I think hopefully we'll be joined by Tom soon. If not, we'll make a start anyway, and then we can pick up on some questions and he can get involved when he can get to us. But yeah, thank you for everyone for joining me. We've got people involved in completely different areas all around records, which is so cool to see. Yeah, let's start with you, Cinthie. You brought up Elevate Berlin. It's been a great success. How did you feel sort of opening a physical record store when so much music is sold digitally online?
I think it has a bit to do with the background because I used to work in a record store back in the 90s, and since then I was constantly playing records, even though everyone was telling me, in some years you can't be a DJ anymore because there will be no records anymore. But I always believed in it, and also there was this huge new house wave coming where all the younger guys were digging on Discogs, like the old records, and everyone was suddenly starting to play vinyl again. Also, we had people like Nina Kravitz, who was super famous, and she also played records. So I think more and more people came back to like playing records. Also, the labels I run they used to be vinyl only. I'll change that later. And but the store pretty much came to me like very naturally. So I never planned to open one, but we had a very good website from my label Beste Modus where we sold all the records. And I had the idea to combine our power with the labels from some friends. And so we have the power combined, and we can maybe sell more, or we can help each other, promote each other. So the end of the idea was that I had all the stock in my flat and it was getting so much. I had to find a storage room, and luckily the store is right next to my flat. The woman who was renting out the space, she was like, look, you were looking for a storage room. I mean, you can have one of the rooms. And I was like, wow, this is perfect. It's just 2 meters, and then after 2 weeks, she was like, oh, I can offer you also the other room, which is more like a proper, like a shop room. And
Just lost your audio there. Well, 1 second. We just lost your audio there, Cinthie.
Oh,
there we go. Go back.
Okay. I thought you wanted to mute me. Thank you. No, I think the last thing I said was that the woman who was renting the shop, she offered me to have like the whole shop. And I was like, wow, okay, it's maybe a bit too much, but maybe we can open a record store. And then I called the rest of my crew and I was like, look, we have the opportunity to rent this like pretty cheap. I think we should do it. At least we should try, you know, if it doesn't work, we can do something else with it. But I think we have this opportunity here. Let's do it. And that's like 2 years ago. I mean, I split up with my crew and I mean, it's like with every business, you should give it at least a year to see if it's worth it or not. But now it's the second year, and I have to say it was a very good decision to keep on fighting for it, because now with no gigs, it's pretty much my own income. And it's really good that I can work for my income myself, that I have this opportunity and that it's going so well. So I'm super lucky with that. But yeah, I never planned to open it. It just came to me.
Amazing. Kind of like, it's nice and inspiring that you kind of focused it around a group of friends as well, and you've managed to create a pretty great community out of that. Joshua, I guess it's cool to pick up on a point here. Your whole goal is crowdfunding, I guess, within communities, and you've worked with record stores already. How has the response been to crowdfunding for those sort of like creative types of businesses?
Yeah, I think the initial response has been really great, and I think something me and my business partner Christy, like we didn't really expect. And I think, you know, founding Ikigai like during the lockdown period, I think there's obviously a bit more of an energy for some people to kind of kickstart some of the projects that they've been thinking about for quite a while, or maybe not had the time, or you know. So the response has been great, and the engagement has been really high. And working with Next Door Records, they were kind of really keen to work with us, listen to our ideas, and we've helped them on their way to establishing their record shop in Shepherd's Bush, which is good. And plus, like, our initial business model works where our client has to be successful in order for us to get paid. And I think that kind of relationship works because we really want to work hard for them to ensure that they kind of like get to where they want to go, basically.
Yeah, it's great to see, you know, this type of communal and community support spirit building businesses that people are also passionate about. Really cool. You know, that you both are selling a lot of records, pushing Cinthie pushing records through your label. But Louis, you know, Discogs is amazing. You've got this huge database, and you mentioned that database sort of came first. Can't remember if that's before we went live there. But you know, you can get out of press records. You're sort of trading with other people. You're collaborating with record stores. Do you think Discogs has had a kind of a big influence on the sort of rocketing sales of vinyl?
I mean, there's no question it's changed the landscape for sure over the last 20. We've been 20 years in October, and the marketplace, I think we're around 13, 14. There's no question. Worldwide, it definitely has, and there's good points with that, and there's negative points with that as well. But for me, it all comes under change. But yeah, the impact's been pretty undeniable. Obviously, when it comes to buying and selling records, having that pricing information, it's pretty much the only place in the world where you can have such like a live overview of what a record has been valued at by people, based on what people have paid for it. That's really, really valuable. It stops people paying too much for records. And it also can make things more challenging in terms of, you know, finding bargains, because people have a bit more of a clear vision of what things are worth. So that's kind of both sides of the coin. Yeah. But yeah, overall, a tremendous impact, especially for research, discovery, and things like that. If physical music is your vice of choice, the database is paradise.
Yeah, for sure. I've certainly bought a lot of great records. Say again, Cinthie?
No, I said I kind of love and hate the database, because I'm also selling a lot of my own collection. And when I started, I put them just in the shop, you know, put a price on €5 or something. And then once a guy came, picked up the record, it was like, €5! Oh my God, it's where from Discogs, 150. And I was like, oh, so yeah, but I gave it to him for like 10. I don't know. I was like, yeah, keep it.
Bargain at 10. Yeah.
Hey, look, you doubled you doubled your money there. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's true, but I was very close to a heart attack. Oh my God, Jesus.
That's a great point. You're facilitating, Discogs is kind of facilitating the right value for these records, and I guess that's increasing the economic growth of vinyl sales. You touched on this earlier, Cinthie, with that you started with a lot of vinyl only releases, and then you've moved into the digital realm. And just to say, your new album's absolutely brilliant. I had to get that in there somewhere. It's so great. I've been listening kind of. The vinyl's still at my parents', so I've got to go and pick it up as well as my turntables. So living between places at the minute.
You ordered one, right?
Say again, sorry.
From me, I think you ordered one from me. Is that right?
Yeah,
I
that's
saw
correct.
Your name. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, because I'm going to bankrupt myself soon. But yeah, back to that, I guess. Do you think like one release, either physical or digital, are more important, or do they kind of have a value in different ways?
Good question. I would say for me, the vinyl values more, because that's my, let's call it my first love. That's what I play, that's what I sell in the shop. And the digital stuff is only for people, because when I'm traveling, when I'm DJing, I went to a lot of places like South America or even the United States or in Asia, where people don't have the opportunity to buy records cheap. I mean, some of them they buy from European stores, but then shipping costs are really high. Then they have to pay import tax and stuff. And that's why I decided to make my music also available for those people on digital platforms. Yeah. But I would say if tomorrow someone would come up to me, would say, okay, you have to decide, you have to choose one thing, what would you do? And I would definitely always choose the vinyl, because it's it's so different. Because when I'm in front of my vinyl shelf, then I can pick out any record and I can tell you what happened with this record, where I bought it, when I played it, when I had a good response from the crowd, and I know exactly which track is on this record. While when I'm browsing through my USB key, then I'm like totally lost, and I'm getting better with recognizing names and stuff. But I'm so used to play vinyl and always have the cover in mind. It's a different kind of workflow also for me. So yeah, I always prefer the vinyl.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah, that's like a kind of, sometimes there isn't a choice for people. It's like it's just too expensive to ship. So digital is the only choice. Interesting. Yeah, Josh, you want to jump in there? I
really like that idea of like, with every record has like a particular story that you can like draw back on, and there's not many other formats that has that kind of, I don't know, just that personality to it that you can always reflect on and engage with in that way. So I really agree with you there.
It's really nice when you find an old record and you try to get it out of the sleeve and it really sticks in the sleeve and you're like, oh my god, I played it at this night and someone spilled some orange juice over it. Oh my god, this night was so great. You don't have to put digital stuff,
Yeah.
Someone's just mentioned in the chat that getting your first vinyl release is kind of like a rite of passage for producers. Interesting comment there. If anyone's got any questions, by the way, later, please.
Can you repeat it? Okay. I didn't understand it.
Oh, so someone mentioned in the chat that for a producer, it's kind of a rite of passage to have your first vinyl release. I guess you're kind of solidified as a real artist or something like that.
It's like when the Queen, how's it called, when you're suddenly the knight or the sir or something, when she. It's like this for when you have your first vinyl release.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a place for it there in terms of kind of. I guess it's that physicality of it. It's something you can hold. It's something you can look at. There's amazing artwork. Yeah. But yeah, it's not always accessible. So yeah, brilliant points. Louis, I mean, you've been in the business of selling records for a long time. You've worked in a lot of different countries. Do you think your experience like that has kind of been really essential for building the community marketplace within Discogs?
Yeah, I think if almost anyone that works at the company, in fact, everyone that works in the company without exception is immersed in the culture in one way or another. And it's really essential for us. I mean, you look at other, I've already said, you know, we're primarily a database and not a marketplace. But if you look at other online marketplaces, you could understand that their final goal would be to have, you know, everyone buy their products on the marketplace rather than in stores. You know, if we're talking about books, for example, you might want everyone to buy your books on your website rather than go to bookstores. And with Discogs, our approach is slightly different. It's a bit more holistic, thinking about the culture of the community. And that's why we do things like the initiative we had this year, where we waived all Discogs fees for physical record stores when the pandemic first hit, because we understand the stake that record stores have in the culture, as a place for people to be able to not just be able to go and pick up records and disappear, but also to find stuff that they've never heard before, meet other people, and kind of, you know, have a different form of discovery that you can't replicate online. So for us, it's that understanding of the culture is really essential for everyone in the business, whether you're a developer, and all the way up to the top, for sure.
Yeah. You're really working with everyone instead of working against them and trying to make someone pay more when you know maybe they can't afford that, and they need that money at a certain time. So that's really great to hear. So it is good to have that industry involvement, and it's not always a monetary value objectives. I know we spoke on the phone, but I don't know if you can tell us about it or not. The Discos were kind of looking at making things more efficient. I mean, can you mention that, or can we not get into that?
Yeah, we made an announcement last week about some changes that we're putting into the marketplace. The marketplace has been, we haven't really shaken things up too much since it's been in existence, but the landscape of online marketplaces is changing, and we need to keep up with it to continue to be scalable. So that the main difference that people are going to feel on the site is we're moving away from that invoicing process that we have today with a lot of buying and selling, where you kind of purchase on the site and then wait for the seller to invoice you the shipping. That's now going to be automated and streamlined, so that when you check out, you pay, and the next thing will be the record arriving in your mailbox. You know, and there's no more back and forth. Of course, communication. Yeah, it removes invoicing for sellers. It removes, you know, that kind of buyer's remorse for buyers. We all, I think, anyone here who buys records knows the feeling of, you know, committing to something and then regretting it the next day, and of course a lot of people drop out because of that. So yeah, we're just trying to streamline that process and help the music move around the world. That's the main objective, and this is a starting point for us to be able to, you know, go further in that space. So it's a really exciting time to be with the company. Yeah,
that's amazing. I guess keep getting this theme throughout the day of everyone I've spoken to, really, of kind of engaging in your community and try and do things to support it. Josh, I guess yourself, do you think like the way these crowdfunding consultancies work, and the campaigns you're working on, can they be adapted to bigger scale projects rather than just small businesses, or is that kind of, is your goal more focused on small ones, and then will it grow to take on larger companies?
I think initially we're working with smaller scale just because a lot of the people that we're working with initially are friends or people within our community ourselves.
Yeah.
But crowdfunding more generally is like Coca-Cola are using it to, you know, use to market certain products, and you know, it's only going to grow, I think, from small to large scale projects. We'd like to work with large scale projects, and I think we're definitely going to try and build a relationship, and that is a long-term goal for us. But yeah, I think easily it can work from small to large.
Is it sort of putting more control? Does the people involved have more control without having an outside, maybe shareholders who might have more influence, where it might be more monetary based, to give people able to make quicker changes and eject more passionate decision making?
Yeah, I mean, despite having risks themselves, i.e. maybe failing, but like crowdfunding platforms offer, you know, a great chance for getting that startup capital that a lot of record shops need, a lot of smaller companies need to get going, and they can do this by energizing the kind of community around them, and working with their friends and friendship groups to really give them like that kick jump for example.
Yeah.
I mean, we're even seeing now like platforms like Crates, which is a specific for like record labels can set up a crowdfunding campaign for specific records that they want to reissue. And
That's
now
cool.
this is great for the reissue record industry, and that's what's having a real moment, I think, with stuff like Crates that allows the platform to kind of, you know, be there and without spending 2-3 grand to get the record pressed or whatever.
Yeah.
That platforms like Crates can exist and work with labels.
Amazing, man. I guess this is probably a big one. I guess, Cinthie, like how have you adapted not being able to open during the pandemic?
I have to say it was quite okay because I do most stuff online with mail order anyway. And before, when it started with the pandemic, before that, I was only open on Wednesdays anyway. It's only one day. And then also only, I think I opened from 5 till 8. So it was not too bad because I was still getting orders and I could still bring them to the post office. But then, since I'm not traveling for gigs at the moment, I also opened Saturdays. And then after the lockdown was eased a bit more, the first day I opened, lots of people were there because they just wanted to have some contact to other people because we've been at home for like 2-3 weeks. And people just wanted to say hi. And then after, it took a while until it was rebuilt because people they kind of wanted to come, but also they were a bit scared, you know, with the virus thing. They didn't really know what's happening. And but now at the moment it's crazy. You know, I have these 2 opening days and it's really nice. I have so many people coming all the time and it's really easy, you know, with the rules and the masks and you use the sanitizer and stuff. And it's really cool, but it's also not just a shop where I want to sell records. Lots of people are always coming to get some advice, you know, how to press a record or how to find a distributor. And so I would say it's 75% is like a record store, but also 25% is like a meeting point. And people just want to have advice and tips and stuff. Yeah,
brilliant. That's cool to see. It's people have managed to adjust and they're okay and taking on board safety, and it's kind of building that community again.
Nice.
I guess Louis, you might be able to answer this one. You know, the vinyl sales have rocketed and it seems like it's here to stay. Do you think the upward trend is going to continue? I guess you deal with a lot of the bigger numbers overall.
I think it's natural that things, you know, trend in peaks and troughs. It would be pretty short-sighted to presume that there is no ceiling on this. But again, being someone that's, you know, in the culture first and works for Discogs second, I mean, there's nothing. I don't think there's very many things that would stop me still collecting, still buying, and still using vinyl as like my primary source to engage with music. And I think that's the same for a lot of people as well. So inevitably, we'll reach a ceiling. We may even see a decline as well. But regardless of that, the music from certain eras is not on streaming services. It's only available on vinyl, and even some contemporary music that still comes out is only available on vinyl as well. And once it's done, it's done. You know, however you feel about reissues and represses, you're not going to be able to reissue everything. And this it's just, I think, as the world gets more used to transient culture, MP3s, and I have nothing against any of these things. I think it's all fantastic for the bigger picture. But as the world gets more used to that kind of product, it's the things that you can pick up and hold and shelve away that take more importance, I think. And it's not going to be for everyone, of course, but there will, I'm confident there will always be a solid community of people who see the value in things like that.
Yeah, it's interesting that
don't start panicking and selling just yet.
It's interesting that you said, you know, that's kind of been your medium and you've continued to do that. For me, about 3 years ago, always been digital. I've never really touched any vinyl. It's just that age bracket, I guess. And then I went to a talk at ADE where I think, Cinthie, you were in the audience because you were talking about your record store.
Yeah.
It's the first. it's the first experience I've ever had of anyone talking about vinyl. And
I was talking about, I remember it.
It's like your comments and then the people on the panel. I was like, wow, this already got me into it. And that weekend I bought my first vinyl and it just hasn't stopped, you know. Even when at times I haven't had my, like, since the pandemic, I haven't had access to my turntables. I've still been buying vinyl. I've probably bought more vinyl than I've ever bought previously. So I guess that doesn't go away.
But it's really funny that you say that. I mean, sometimes I do that at gigs, you know, when I'm playing, and I know there's always someone asking for a specific kind of record, and sometimes it's a record from my label, and I'm like, okay, keep it. I give it to you because I know I have like 25 more at home. And you know, this person, it's like giving him, maybe it sounds funny, but it's like giving him heroin, you know, he tries it and then he never stops. It's maybe a bit, sounds funny, but
I use a similar analogy all the time.
Yeah, because they're so amazed. Yeah, they're so amazed by having this record in their hands, you know. And then they try to find a turntable at home and steal it from their grandparents or something, and then they get infected, you know. And then they understand the whole culture behind it, that it's not them sitting alone at home in front of their computer and downloading tons of MP3s and stuff like that. It's like being social, going to the record store. At the record store, you're meeting like-minded people, you're making friends with them, you go out with them, you're connecting, you start a DJ team in the best way, you also start a label with them, you know. It's like, and it starts only with one night that someone gave you a record, you know. I saw it so many times, and it's really nice that it's still happening, you know.
Josh, did you want to jump in there? Yeah.
Well, I think like even using Discogs, for example, it's kind of like the amount of, you know, virtual friendships that you even can create just through buying a record from someone, and kind of like learning how the amount of people that I've realized that have started record labels or whatever and sent me WAVs or etc. by just building up this communication through records. I think just like as long as that will always grow, whether it comes in different forms and stuff. I think there'll always be a community for it.
Yeah.
It's definitely an addiction, and it's so hard to hide because the record packaging is so distinctive. I just get a text from my parents going, "Oh, I think something's arrived for you again." I was like, "Oh, yeah." So I think it's a record. I was like, I don't know. I must have pre-ordered it like 5 months ago. Oh, you can't hide it. I just get them. I don't get them sent home. I get them sent to my parents because although my partner's probably watching this now, so I probably really screwed myself over here.
But I have one question also to the others, because I mean, my shop is more specialized in house music, and I can also see it that, or I have the feeling that more house DJs or more disco DJs are playing records, while the guys who are playing techno, they're more into all this digital world and stuff like that. And it's I don't see so many techno labels releasing records. And I wonder if it's just my the feelings I have about it, or do the other ones also have made the same experiences? Maybe I think it's more like a culture that still exists in like the house music scene, for example, or disco, of course, but not so much in the techno scene.
Yeah,
this whole vinyl thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of the disco music and that kind of sound, isn't it? You can't really get high quality digital files of a lot of the records, can you?
Yeah. So, and I think it's also still a bit of the culture, you know, especially people like Rooney or Motor City Drum Ensemble. It's that kind of thing, you know, when they play, you know, okay, they've been digging so much on every kind of flea market, and they find out really the pearls of everything, and you're kind of waiting what they're playing. And then also the Discogs price goes up and stuff like that. And it's not so much a thing in techno music, you know. You're not like standing there waiting for Amelie Lenz like playing the new pearls she might have found on the flea market, you know. It's not really a thing in techno music, for example.
Yeah. I think
I don't know enough to oh, sorry. I was just going to say I don't know enough to say about techno specifically, but there's definitely trends in different genres with different formats.
Yeah,
that for sure is a thing. So I wouldn't be surprised.
That's a lot of the reasons I buy records, is because I think, oh, no one else is going to have this at the moment, and it's, you know, it's very rare. There's a limited press. It's funny because when I started getting into it, it was digital, and kind of like the access to digital music wasn't as good then. You'd think, oh, I've got this MP3 file that no one else has got, but now it's like
limited to 500 downloads. Yeah.
Yeah, but now everyone's got access to everything. You're like, well, it's hard to find a tune that's not overplayed. So yeah, definitely vinyl has been a way forward. I'm guessing I'm relearning like a trick of the past here. But yeah, it's something I've learned. You touched on community there, like and that it's kind of been an important meeting place, and obviously you hear a lot of great stories of a lot of music scenes starting in record stores and being important for underground culture. Do you think it still has that same importance that it gives to underground music culture?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I see it in my shop, how people are connecting, and some started a DJ team together and some also started a label together. And I think it was like 3 weeks ago, like 2 guys came in and said, oh, this is so cool. We just got the test press of our first release and was like, wow, I mean, I remember you guys met in my shop and you got on really well. It's like, yeah, it was so cool. Since then we met and we exchanged and we were on the same level. We played the same kind of music, and then we had the idea to do the label, and then also the release was really nice. So of course I took it and I'm gonna sell it in the shop. So it's really like a nice kind of circle of life, or whatever you call it in English. And yeah, it's really nice. It's also very good for the community.
Yeah. How about yourself, Josh?
I mean, if you use Birmingham as like a reference point, I guess, like a lot of the people that have been on your event today, like they have a strong connection to Cafe Artem or any of the Digbeth records, or in a way that it's the foundation for a lot of music scenes that are like built upon. And I find that fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah,
because you just get like-minded people can come together and chill and engage with the music that they like, or the kind of culture that they're interested in.
It sounds probably stupid, but I was kind of terrified to go into a Cafe Artem at first, because it's kind of a culture that I'm not familiar with. But then after you be there for a while, as long as you're treating the records you're listening to carefully, like you can really meet a lot of great people. And Chris Stew's partner with Joshua, he was really helpful in giving me loads of great music choices as well. Stuff he was like, what music are you into? Here's some great stuff to listen to. I would have never have found that music on my own. So they kind of facilitate a lot of new music purchases as well. Louis, like, has that been your experience in places you've worked as well? Has it kind of fed into the underground culture?
Day in, day out, all over the world, no question. Yeah. I could give 1,000 examples, but I see it happen all the time. I just think there's not a lot of spaces physically where you can meet people that are so like-minded, so it's a really valuable opportunity.
Yeah, very cool. It's nice to hear it's still continuing.
But it's really funny, sorry, Luke, that's still after all these years. I mean, I started working in a record store in 1996, and I remember when I first entered the store, I was so nervous. And it's really funny that you said the same thing, and so many people still have it, when they go to a record store for the first time, and it's really funny. I don't know why this is. It's people that have I don't know, they feel almost scared, you can see it in their face. They're like, oh my God, what can I do? I hope I'm not gonna break anything.
Yeah, it's like you make one wrong move and everyone in the shop's going to look at you and you're going to be shamed out the door. No, it doesn't end up like that, fortunately.
Yeah.
What do you think a good piece of advice you give to people who want to start a record store or an online record store? I guess first of all, email you three, because you know so much. But what do you think's a great piece of advice you'd give people? Anyone can pick up this.
I'm happy to start.
Yeah.
I mean, I could talk about this all day, so maybe someone cut me off. It's a big part of my day to day. I'll try and keep it as un-Discogs biased as possible as well. I think it's really important if you're passionate about a particular sound and you want your store to have that focus, then to really commit to that. But take into account as well, if you're in a very populated area, you're getting good foot traffic, for example, then it might be the ABBA records and the Pink Floyd records paying the bills so that you can sell the cumbia or whatever else you're focused on. So just having an understanding of your audience, both like who you're trying to attract and who naturally falls into your path. I think a big lesson that everyone has learned from this year is that not having all your eggs in one basket is really important. So there's a lot of different channels that record stores can use, from having their own websites, obviously selling on Discogs, record fairs, in-store events, live streams, and yeah, having that diversification I think is really important, because it allows you to balance when things don't necessarily go to plan.
Yeah.
And I think if they're executed well, they can all complement one each other. I speak to record stores a lot who, let's say, focus on one specific genre, but when they buy a collection, it might be half, whatever they wanted, and half stuff that they don't necessarily want and doesn't fit with their store. And if you're selling at Discogs, or if you're selling at record fairs, or if you're selling in bulk to other stores, and you've got good relationships with other stores in your area who specialize in stuff that doesn't fit your store, then you're able to take what you need out of the bulk purchases that you make, and remove what's not necessarily a fit, and still come out on top. So just being able to juggle what your focus is, what different channels you're going to use. I really recommend to everyone who's opening a record store to use Vinyl Hub, which is our free tool that directs people to record stores in their areas, tells you how many record stores are in your area. That can be useful for specifically looking for where you're going to start. You might want to be surrounded by other record stores. You might want to branch out into a new area that you think is underserved. And also that tool in itself is a great way to get more people into your store. It's totally free. So I'd recommend that as well.
Amazing. Embracing new technology to, supply an old technology. Wicked.
For sure. It's a brave new world. So yeah, forward thinking is best.
Yeah. How about you, Josh? I mean, I guess crowdfunding is probably like a big advice, or come and speak to you and speak to someone. Is it get as much advice as you can?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think whenever starting up, reaching out to as many contacts as you have for support and help is perfect. And I think, Louis, it's interesting what you were talking about, because when I was in Japan like last year, it was quite like amazing to see all the Japanese record shops and the way they interacted with each other and engaged and supported each other. And I think like bringing in that kind of atmosphere where record shops across your city or region really kind of work with each other to try and like help each other out and support each other is really good. Best way forward, I'd say.
Amazing.
Yeah, you mentioned Japan. That kind of brought something else to mind. I mean, Japan, if you haven't been to Japan, I would say almost regardless of what sound of music you're in, you'll probably be in for a treat. I really think that as a country, they've got the right approach. I mean, the level of condition and care and attention to detail that goes into the stores there is just first class. A really important point that I think Discogs has made me see as well is that although you might go on the website and see that Discogs says this record is worth this much money, records are worth different depending on where they are. A salsa record in Colombia is going to be different to the same record in London, because just supply and demand. So if you are specializing in a sound that does cost different in different locations, I try and be conscious of that and try and build a network wherever that sound is really more common and maybe cheaper, and try and organize some kind of cultural exchange. I know a lot of successful stores, My Own Records in Berlin is a good example, who source all their stock from Japan, bring it back to Germany in bulk, and then make it available to the European market. And that gives them a really good competitive advantage. Same for Human Head in New York. They have buyers in Brazil, and that allows them to get fantastic records from Brazil and be able to bring them in at a good price point for their local market. So that's a really good tip, worth exploring.
Amazing.
I think a lot of what the best record shops do is offer a space for the DJs and the musicians that are kind of in their community, and like it only helps your city, your area, if you kind of like can offer that space, I think, as well.
Yeah. Cinthie, what do you think the best piece of advice you could give to anyone starting a record store then?
Good question. I don't really have a direct advice. I think the other two guys already said a lot. Really good advice. I think it's nice to think about it before what kind of music you want to sell, or if you want to be specialized in something. I think that's good. And also, ideally, you know, a few people from that scene, so you can maybe get some people on board by buying their records, or maybe get them into your shop exclusively, maybe a week before the release or something, or before everyone else has it. So you get more customers to your shop, of course. Yeah, that's an advice, to just know your scene and also go out, listen to DJs, see what they're playing, and be interested. And yeah, I think that's the only advice I can give.
Amazing. I mean, it's probably the last question we can ask before we finish up. But do you? I'll start with Cinthie, because you have the store in Berlin. Josh mentioned it. Do you collaborate quite a lot with other people, like promoters and people involved in the electronic scene in Berlin?
Yeah, I mean, I have always lots of people coming to the store, and they bring me their records, and yeah, I check them out, and if I like them, then of course I'm gonna sell them, because I think for the artist or for the label owner, it's really nice to sell a handful of copies or whatever to their favorite stores directly, because yeah, they get maybe a few more coins for it, and also they build a relationship. And yeah, for me it's also really nice, because sometimes I have the records a few days before, so I can make a nice post, ideally with the label owner, and say, look, person XY just brought over the new release. The other two ones we already had in the shop. The number 3 is now ready, and now we have created a nice community. They're like, oh my god, this is so nice. And you can definitely see after the post that the traffic goes up. And I think I'm also, in general, a person, I really love to network and stuff, and I really love to support the scene and stuff. Yeah, and that's what I'm actually doing. Yeah, like helping, supporting, buying records, selling records.
Yeah. Amazing. It's kind of seen from sort of a common theme of what you've all been talking about, that community, and there's kind of like a personal touch to vinyl sales that kind of maybe is somewhere lost in the digital realm. And it gives someone like a human aspect to music.
Yeah, and I mean, I think with me, especially because I'm also touring so much, I'm also releasing so much, so people kind of know what to expect, or know what kind of music I'm into. And also the selection I have in the shop is very it's very selected, because it's pretty much everything I would play myself, and people know this and they appreciate it, and so they really trust me with the stuff I'm buying. And yeah, so far it's going really well, and I think it's a bit of an advantage to someone who is maybe not so much a touring DJ, you know, who doesn't have that platform. And yeah, so it's definitely a different kind of thing maybe with my shop.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you all so much for joining me today. It's been really insightful, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to give me a bit of insight and give people watching an insight. Yeah, I think this can be available on our website, beatbringsus.com, after the conference is finished, maybe in a few days, like next week. And if anyone wants to donate, please, if you can, we're raising money for BLMUK, Women in Music, Help Musicians and Mind. The donation link is in the video description. And yeah, thank you so much, you three. I'm glad you've been able to adapt, overcome any problems lockdown has thrown at you. And I wish you all the best and stay safe. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you soon. I'll catch up with you later.
Pleasure.
Thanks
Thanks for organising, and thank you to the rest of you.
Thank you. It's great to meet you all. Thank you.
Bye.
Absolutely.
See you soon.
See ya.